Thanks. Good evening, everybody. 4 years ago, I'm sitting in a crowded room filled with 150 smart, eager graduate students. We're mostly nervous, waiting for this workshop to begin with a man named Marshall Ganz. He stands at the front with a pastel yellow button-up shirt and an epic mustache and begins to speak. Within the first few minutes, my muscles tighten, I feel my palms getting sweaty, and my heartbeat quickening just a little bit. Something is happening in me that I can only articulate later as the best teaching I've ever witnessed. About an hour and a half into the workshop, I hear this mustached man call my name. I get up from my seat, stand next to him, gracefully, and promptly blurt, "I'm going to vomit." "Well, don't do that," he says, and he tells me to start sharing my story. 2 long, torturous, nerve-wracking minutes later, Marshall begins to debrief what I've just shared. And in horror, I realize what a train wreck of a story I had just told. And the mastery of Marshall just took what was a very embarrassing, inappropriate story and somehow found teaching points in the midst of it all. 2 weeks later, I awkwardly go talk to him in his office hours, and in a mere 15 minutes, I realize that the trajectory of my life is about to change. That's what a good teacher does. They see you, they really see you, the truth of who you are and who you can become, and they support you to the point where you can actually become that person. And indeed, my life did change. I've been working with him since on teaching, pedagogy, curriculum, projects, experiments for the last 4 years that have made me see that maybe, just maybe, I am more powerful than I've let myself believe. That's who Marshall is. People know him as an organizer, an influencer, and revolutionary, someone who helps people build their power. The core of Marshall, though, is that he's the greatest teacher I've ever known. He's an educator who not only equips and empowers communities, but he allows people to see the potential within themselves to be agents of change, and more importantly, self-aware and developed leaders in this world. This award goes to who I believe is the greatest, most compassionate, empathetic, and powerful living educator. And I wholeheartedly applaud El-Hibri for recognizing and awarding that greatness. Marshall, and I need to repeat this after Farhan, has taught over 480 workshops since 2007. He's educated over 35,000 students directly, and that doesn't even take into consideration the many people who are exposed to his teachings through other means, and he's done so in over 52 countries around the world. And those are just numbers. What's even more remarkable is that behind those numbers are people who have had life-altering and transformational experiences because of the love and leadership of this man. I know this because I'm one of them. And now to pass it to another one of them, Farhan.
Thank you, sir. I was attacked outside my apartment when I was 19 years old. 3 men motivated by hate speech by an influential, divisive leader attacked me, crushing my arms and my ribs. I barely escaped being run over by their car as it sped away. For years, only a handful of people knew what happened to me. This traumatic experience was something that I did not want to share. Then one night, 6 years later, at the MLT conference in Doha, I was asked to share my story in front of 400 participants. I froze and I felt paralyzed, much like you, Sarah. A woman named Nasreen, a Jordanian organizer, approached me and said she could help. In a Marriott business lounge, she pulled up this scratchy video with a blue background showing a white mustached man with a white shirt. It looked like an 80s HR video. She pointed to him and said, "I must go study with him." Nasreen was one of Marshall's students. 8 years later, after my attack, I finally had a chance to go study with Marshall in Boston and to learn how to embrace telling my story. Our classmates choked up every time we struggled to articulate our challenging memories and events. And Marshall would say, "You must own your own story and not let your story own you. We have seen how finding your voices and sharing your stories can change countless lives and communities. We've heard it through all the stories that were shared tonight on stage. What makes Marshall's trainings exceptional is the fact that his lessons emerged from a lifetime of making history. As a college student, he worked in the civil rights movement as an organizer for SNCC. For decades, Marshall organized and mobilized farm workers alongside Cesar Chavez. He's helped organize grassroots campaigns for some of the most influential political campaigns of our time, including organizing trainings for Camp Obama. His work building power for the marginalized and organizing and amplifying voices of the voiceless has benefited countless communities across the world, from Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, all the way to China. Marshall, over the past 8 years, I've had the honor to witness your love and commitment in action, training over 200 members of the American Muslim community, representing over 150 organizations. At a time when we desperately need to reclaim our narratives, you've helped us find our voice. And in sharing our stories, you've helped build bonds of trust, friendship, and the basis for collective action. You are genuinely a selfless and generous teacher. Every time you walk into the room, you give 100%. It's like you're sharing something for the first time. Even after presenting and coaching for 12, 13 hours straight, I've seen you continue answering students and their questions carefully. I will never forget the image of Marshall just recently conducting a training at the foundation across the street. You already taught for over 16 hours, nonstop over the 2 days. You had skipped meals because you were so flooded with questions. And then I saw you step away for a few minutes, and I thought perhaps he's going to take some rest and eat. I brought in some water to check on you. And as I opened the door, I just realized I'd walked into the Skype frame of a keynote address he was giving to 400 people at a conference. This is the unparalleled dedication and commitment Marshall has to training the next generation of peace builders and organizers. And we are amazed by the energy that you have. You've spent, we were calculating, almost every other weekend for the last 7 years working on workshops across the globe outside your teaching. Marshall, thank you for all the hard work that you've done and you continue to do. You've inspired so many of us and shown us exactly why David sometimes wins. And this is why Marshall is more than just a teacher and a coach. He's a mentor, a friend, a strategist, a sheikh, and a family member to all of us. On behalf of the El-Hibri Foundation and all the alumni here and around the world, congratulations on being our honoree. May I please request our chair, Fuad El-Hibri and Nancy El-Hibri, to join me in presenting this award to Marshall Ganz. Please join me.